Well, hello and welcome to another very wet and cold week on my allotment. Isn't that the beauty of the English weather, or the British weather? You know, one week you're sweating and dripping from the baking sun in March and April and May. And here we are in June, and I've given in and I'm having a fire. Because I can. It's absolutely awful out there. Yesterday it rained. Well, I don't know, I got up, you know I'm an early riser, I was up at about 6 o'clock I guess. And I went to bed about 9:30, 10 o'clock. And it rained right the way through the day, and it was raining when I went to bed, and it was raining when I got up, and it's still raining now. My van's in for its service and MOT, so uniquely I'm carrying an very old mobile phone, in case I get some bad news. However, all that aside, my daughter dropped me off up here and has gone back home, so I've got all day up here. John's up here. It's the old stalwarts. John's here, sitting in his shed reading the paper. Barry's been here and has just left. It's a bit of a shame for Barry because his shed faces into the prevailing wind, so when he's in his shed the rain's going in. So whereas John's got a very small modest shed, but his is backed into the weather so he can sit in and he's okay like I am. Anyway, what's happening on the plot? Well, we're going for another walk. I thought last week was our final walk, but the ladies, my wife and my daughter, have said, well, it's Father's Day this weekend, Dad, which I didn't know. Sorry, Dad. You relax, we'll sort out a route. So God only knows where we're going on Saturday, tomorrow. But I'm looking forward to just relaxing. Actually, that's not true. I always like to know where I'm going. I've always had the map since I was a very young soldier. And I like to know where I'm going. I like to know where I've been and where I've got left to go, so I know where I am on the route. Anyway, I'm not going to be able to do that tomorrow, so we shall see. I have a sneaky suspicion we're going to walk here, but I don't know. Because where would I want to be on my Father's Day? Well, I'd want to be here. So we'll see. I could be way off the mark. But it's the time of plenty. I went round yesterday. I popped up in the rain for an hour, and I picked a few pea pods. And the peas are in them, but they're very small. So I've just got to be patient and wait just a little bit longer. However, and I should be up here Sunday to do my normal Sunday all-dayer. But I thought, Niff Naff and Trivia, I've got a little bit for you this week. I wouldn't want to disappoint all you Niff Naff and Trivia buffs. And I'd like to start with something from the Kitchen Garden magazine. There's a very interesting article in here. Excuse me while I put my silly old glasses on. Yes, there's an article in here by a Dr. Faye Edwards. I find it fascinating. And it's gardening fact or fiction. So I'm going to give you two. And I'm going to leave it hanging in the air like a bad smell, and I want you to think about it and make your guess. You've got 50-50, haven't you? Is it fact or fiction? So let's start with removing leaves so sunlight shines on green tomatoes ripens them. Is that fact or fiction? And then another one, spraying plants with soapy liquid is a harmless way to get rid of green fly. Fact or fiction? I'll leave those with you and I'll come back to you at the end of the programme. Well, the kettle is on the stove. I'm going to sit in here basking in what is now considerable warmth, and then we'll go and have a walk around the plot. I've been busy on the plot this week. I've thinned out all the side shoots of all the tomato plants. That took quite a long time. I don't know how many tomato plants I've got on the allotment. I've never counted them. I ought to. I had a load of runner bean plants that were left over as spares. So I've made a quick wigwam and stuck them on that, and they can crack on with it. Bridget came over to my plot and gave me some sweet potato plants. That was really kind of her. She is good that way. She gives me all sorts of different plants and cuttings and what have you. she gave me an apple tree. I've forgotten the name of it already. Pearmain? Something Pearmain. Pearmain something, I don't know. I'll have to get that back off and put a label in it. Label everything, boys and girls. So yeah, I've put the sweet potatoes in the ground. I tried one plant that I bought from the garden centre last year, and the sweet potatoes were eaten by the slugs. But they did grow sweet potatoes, so I've got 4 plants, I think. So maybe I'll have a bit more luck. We shall see. You cannot beat a fire. I've just dismantled the pipe, taken it out of the flashing that I've got in the roof, and cleaned out all the soot. I reckon the diameter of that pipe was down to half with all the soot. So that was a job well worth doing, and I have to say that it's flowing through a lot better now, not so much smoke in the shed. So welcome along this week. If I've got any clips of our walk, wherever that may take us, I shall put them on, and then we'll have a wander around the plot and see what I'm up to. From the warmth and coziness of the shed, smoke blowing from the chimney, the plot is getting a good soak. Yeah, I'm really pleased with the rain. A good day and now another half day. It may rain all day, I don't know, but this is real proper rain. This isn't a gesture, this is good stuff. This will be completely soaking through the ground now. It's been raining hard for a day and a half. One of my water butts is now completely full. It was completely empty, and it really is dripping out of the guttering, so that's done remarkably well. So I shan't be watering for at least a week. I'm going to leave the plot and let it crack on. That'll be a relief. Really will be good news to give that watering cart a break. I've got a normal Niff Naff and trivia for you. Some of you may know this one. I think this is quite a commonly known saying, the origin of it, and that is to freeze the balls off a brass monkey. And it's another Royal Navy saying of origin, and it comes from battleships where along the deck of the gun deck there are brass monkeys, and a brass monkey is a large flat brass plate, and into that plate are hammered circular indentations, and in those indentations cannonballs are sat, and they're built up into a pyramid. It's a genius piece of design because, one, the indentations in the brass monkey or the brass plate hold the cannonballs still. The pyramid shape retains them where they are despite the rocking to and fro of the ship and the shock of the ship, because ships used to jump out of the water almost with when they fired off a broadside, and the cannonballs would stay still. They're also well placed for the gun crews to get them straight to the cannons. So the brass monkey was the brass plate, and then the cannonballs were sat on top. And of course the brass of the cannon of the plate and then the iron of the cannonballs would contract and expand at different rates in cold and hot temperatures. And the reason you say it's so cold it would freeze the balls off a brass monkey is when the ship went so far north or so far south that the temperatures dropped so far, the brass on the monkey would contract so much that the indentations would shrink, and with the rocking of the ship, etc., the cannonballs would roll off and onto the deck off the brass plate. And that's where that saying comes from. And it's a fascinating origin and saying. And can you imagine the shock of the sailors? I mean, they would have been blooming cold anyway, when all the cannonballs dropped off that plate and rolled around the deck. Not that they wouldn't have known it was cold anyway. Yeah, fascinating. Well, it's stopped raining now, and I've been out and picked. So starting on the left is blueberries, raspberries and strawberries. A few josta berries there, not sure what we'll do with them. but they're lovely just to eat as they are, to be honest. And if you don't know, a josterberry is a berry that is a mix of black currant and gooseberry, and then a few black currants, the ubiquitous zucchini courgette, and then some beetroot. And then on Sunday I've got to pick some stuff for Sunday dinner. So the time of plenty is finally upon us. Massive satisfaction. Well, my suspicion that we're on our way to the allotment for lunch. Bearing in mind we don't actually have a lunch at the moment. This is the route, so I may be right, but they're keeping very tight-lipped. Over there is Hanley Plotter's Allotments. That's the River Severn. Well, look what we've got there. Well, they didn't let me down. Hidden in my shed from when I went to pick up my van from its MOT is a full lunch and a present for Father's Day, I'm guessing. How lucky am I? Right, eat. As things start to go back to some sort of normality, our daughter's going back to work, we'll go back to living just the two of us, and things will start to get back to normal. He says, blindly optimistic. But anyway, I'm on the plot today, and the walk yesterday, I was right. We came here, and very cleverly, because my wife came and picked me up to take me to the garage to pick up my van, which thankfully passed its MOT without any problems and had a big service, so that's all tickety-boo. Unknown to me, while I was waiting for the van bill to be sorted out and a few bits and pieces, I thought they'd gone shopping. They came back up here and they stowed a lunch in here. So when we got here without a lunch, it was in the shed. So all's well that ends well. And then we walked home and I was very happy. So it was a good day. And I think that was our 13th Saturday walk in a row. We haven't missed one. And we had one walk, I actually videoed it and put it on one of my episodes, where a couple of times we had to put our coats on because there was some short, sharp showers. Yesterday it rained right up until the moment we left home, and we had coats with us, but it didn't rain on us. The sun's coming over my shoulder there, look at that. So that's 13 Saturdays in a row without having to wear coats for a whole walk. A couple of showers. That's quite something. That's a record. It's got to be a record. Normally the weekends are wet. Anyway, I mean, this weekend has been wet. It has rained and it has rained. And I woke up at 3:45 this morning. I would normally get up at 4 on a Sunday and be here for shortly afterwards. Was it yesterday or is it today that's the longest day? I don't know. I know there's a big hoo-ha about all the people who normally go to Stonehenge. So yeah, it's the longest, I think it's the longest day today, I'm not sure. But I woke up and I went into the toilet, and that's at the back of the house, which is where the prevailing wind is, and the rain was pounding down. And the forecast was for it to rain till about 6, 7, 8 o'clock. And it's 10 to 6 now. So I thought, oh, blow it, I'll have another hour. So I went back to bed, turned the alarm off, and I woke up an hour later, sure enough. So I got up and I've driven up here in the light, and there's blue sky up there now. There are some blimmin' black heavy clouds as well, but I think it's going to be a dry day. Which brings me on nicely to a couple of things, small projects that I'm going to complete over the winter. I think, you know, the winter time is the time to improve things. And if you've watched me for a while, you will know that this year, because of the spring and the flooding on the plot, I decided to go chippings all over the path, and I did it. And I found a landscape gardener who was getting rid of some chippings, and I managed to get them off him and brought them up here in the van. So I did it for free. And then I dug I call it the Hanley Canal, but it's a trench around my plot down the side. It links in with Melvin's plot below me and takes the water away down to the lower part of the field. And I think that worked, and we'll see next winter. But it means that the chippings only go up to the ditch, and there's a small 1 foot strip that runs down the side of this golf netting that's there to protect me and other plotters from the golf driving range. And the grass and the nettles are now about 4 feet high, and they lop over onto the... It's all a bit messy. So, and I'm not going to do anything about it now. It's too late. The grass is high. If I trim it, I'll spread the muck all over my plot and the seeds with it. So I've made a mental note that next winter, when I can, I'll cut the grass and the nettles down, and I will then cardboard that strip. I'm not sure I'll get chippings, but I'll put stone, logs, whatever, to suppress it. And then next year, I'll have my path, the ditch, a strip of cardboard to suppress, which will be tucked under the netting, so my whole plot is protected. So that's one project, but that's for later. And the next one is my strawberry beds. Ever since I got here, this is my 4th summer, the strawberries have grown through membrane. It's been very successful. I lose a few strawberries to slugs, but not many. And you know, I'm happy with that. If the slugs take a few, I can live with it. But of course it does mean that I do lift the membrane and put a bit of goodness in the soil, but I think I'm going to do away with the membrane next year and see how I get on. It means I'll dig out all the strawberries. I'm intending to plant up a lot of the runners off the strawberries this year. I'll get rid of the old strawberries, so they'll all be new. I shall dig in some of my own compost, etc, etc. So a revamp of the strawberry bed in the autumn is on the cards. But today I'm going to lift my garlic. Funnily enough, I'd already planned to do that. I've already taken one out and it was okay. And this morning, before I came up here, I saw Cliff had posted a new video, Castle Hill Garden. And by sheer fluke, he lifted his garlic this week. He had a wonderful crop. I think his was Marco. Mine is called Germador. I've had no problem with Germador. I like it, we like it, and it grows well and it stores well. In fact, we've still got Germador from last year at home now. But I'm going to lift it today, and I may, if I get the time and the willpower, start with the turning of the soil, putting the manure in to raise that bed, because that bed is right down the bottom. It flooded. The garlic was underwater a lot last year, so that's a project for today. But first and foremost, I need to get that Kelly kettle on and get a brew. So welcome to Sunday. Well, I'm actually quite pleased. First of all, these have been in the ground since the 14th of September last year. They sat underwater. They weren't flooded and then it dried out, flooded. They sat underwater for a good month or two of the 5 months of heavy rain and flooding we had on site. This bed's quite low, and they just sat small and weak underwater for a couple of months. And yet I can't see any sign of any rot. You know, Germador, almost bulletproof, that variety. Stores well, like I said. So, very happy. Some of them are a little small, but, you know, and maybe you could say I should have left them in a bit longer now we've had this rain, but, you know, they've got a lot of rust on them. And I want the bed for something else. They've been in the ground since September. So I'm going to take it as it is, and I'm very happy with that. I shall stick them to dry. We've got a dry spell ahead of us. In fact, this week is going to get very hot, so these will dry out nicely, and Cheryl will be pleased because she uses a lot of garlic. I didn't like to eat garlic because, you know, obviously it makes you stink a bit, and I used to smell other fellas at work when I was in the army and they used a lot of garlic and they just stank. I've since learned the sheer health benefits of it, and I thought, well, I work on my own. I don't get very close to my customers at the moment anyway, so I don't worry about it. Garlic is about the healthiest food you can eat. So it goes in just about everything, including salads raw. So yeah, I'm very happy with that. Well, that's 3 hours work condensed into a little bit of video, and it doesn't seem to be a lot of return for all the physical effort, but there's about 8 or 9 wheelbarrow loads of manure gone in there, and it's raised it about 4 to 6 inches, or maybe 4 or 5 inches, and I took the runner beans out and I've put them back in, so I'm very happy with that. That's another bed, flood proofed hopefully come the winter. And I've already got some brassicas that are desperate to get out of pots to put in here, and I'm going to transfer the Enviromesh from the Brussels sprouts, which are now at the top of it, in the Enviromesh is going to go over this bed where I've got some all year round cauliflowers sown in the greenhouse at home. So there is a plan. Well, it's a good looking cauliflower. It's just starting to go a little bit purple on the head, so that's why I've cut it and not let it grow anymore. I'll take that home tonight and we'll either have that with our Sunday dinner, or Cheryl will freeze it, because the cauliflower freezes really well. And again, that's just going over. The florets are just starting to open out into flowers, so I've caught that one just in time, and we're definitely having that for tea tonight. That's been ordered. Well, the spot where I'm growing my Market Mall cucumbers up the trellis, for the time being, is also doubling up as my garlic drying rack. Well, it's the time of plenty, as I've said, and everything is growing well. And I've counted them. I have 49 individual tomato plants on my allotment. Here's a brief look at today's haul. So some blackcurrant, strawberries, blueberries and raspberries, a couple of courgettes, a head of calabrese and a cauliflower, the innumerable beetroot, the first carrots I think that have ever left my plot. So there's a moment in time, and some broad beans, and you can see the discoloration on the pods there caused by the spraying with the soapy water and olive oil, although I've had checked on others and the beans inside are absolutely fine. So really pleased with that. Excellent. I think that's it for the week. It's a week that saw heavy rainfall, heavy and persistent, and we're all thrilled to bits with it. Lovely. And next week's bringing high temperatures. So now the ground is soaked all the way through. My garlic will dry on the trellis. Hopefully the squash will take off, the pumpkins. So yeah, it's a good time, and the weather is playing its part, unusually. I'd like to say a public thank you to Betty, who has a plot nearby here. She watches my videos, and she saw that I didn't have any gooseberries to speak of this year. So she turned up with her friend and gave me 2 large bags of gooseberries that they'd picked off of their plot. And that is so kind. So thank you to both of you. I really appreciate it. Well, both my wife and I appreciate it, and they're topped and tailed, and they're in the freezer ready for the winter crumbles. So thank you, Betty. And I'd just like to make an observation. I watch people come and go through the day, and some people come up, they do a little bit of watering, they might prune a bit or harvest a bit, and then they go. Others come up and just enjoy being here, and I'm sure even those who have come up quickly enjoy being here, but people have a different approach, and it's quite interesting to watch. The people up here that come to mind that sort of really enjoy being up here and use it as a social thing are Bridget for sure, John's here almost every day. It's a rare day he's not here. He brings his lunch, he brings a newspaper, he's made his into his garden, and his wife comes up regularly with family and friends. There's 3 or 4 of them sat over on his plot now enjoying a cup of tea, and it's lovely to see. Obviously I'm the same, my family come up here occasionally, and I'm up here all day. My lunch is on the stove now. Barry and his wife can spend a long time up here. I think they bring a flask. And then others, different people come up, they do what they've got to do, and then they go. It's a place of work, it's a place with objectives, and then they're gone. And it's quite interesting to watch. But on another note, I haven't forgotten that I set a couple of questions at the beginning, and I apologise for saying that I'll come back to you at the end of the programme. I think I was making my videos sound posher than they are. It was a slip of the tongue. It's something you hear on the telly, isn't it? And it just came out. So apologies for that. Anyway, the question I posed, number 1, was removing leaves so sunlight shines on green tomatoes ripens them. Well, that is a fact. Tomato skins make pigment when exposed to UV light, turning them a vibrant colour. If you look closely at tomatoes that have been partially shaded, you'll see they're brighter on the side that has had more sun. So removing leaves that shade tomatoes will help them to ripen on the vine. It will also make the fruits taste sweeter. But tomatoes have another trick up their sleeve. They produce a gas called ethylene, which helps them ripen without sunlight. This is why green tomatoes will ripen in a dark drawer. Bananas and apples also produce ethylene, so putting green toms with these can speed up the process. Where possible though, ripening tomatoes in direct sun on the vine will give you the best colour and flavour. So there you are, there's the answer to that one. And the second one was, spraying plants with soapy liquid is a harmless way to get rid of green fly. And that is fiction. Ever heard that spraying soapy liquid on green fly blocks their breathing holes, controlling them without harming your crops? I'm afraid it's rubbish. Plants are covered in a fatty cuticle that protects them from sun damage and dehydration. Without this cuticle, they wouldn't survive. But what are soaps designed to do? Break down fats. That's why washing up liquid gets your roasting pan so clean after Sunday dinner. In the same way as it cuts through the grease on your dishes, soap will cut through your plant's cuticles. A better option is to use the force of a pure water spray to knock aphids off affected plants. Well, there you go. Now that's a definite gardening myth, and of course I've done it here, and it damages the plants. And funnily enough, I have to say, using the olive oil and the soapy water did get rid of my black fly, definitely. I'm now cropping broad beans, but when I look at my plants, half of them I've sprayed and half of them I haven't. The ones I've sprayed have gone all brown and are definitely suffering. You know, obviously they are losing their fatty layer, but and I am now going just to a pressure water spray, but it did get rid of the black fly. Anyway, that's the answers. So, without further ado, thank you for watching. If you've managed to get to the end, hit the thumbs up if you can, and thank you to those who subscribed. And all being well, I'll see you next week. Look after yourselves. Bye for now.